Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video, and welcome to a day in the life of a freelance editor and author. This is a video that has been requested a little bit, so I thought today I would basically take you through a day in my life and my working life. This video is also very kindly sponsored by Serious Readers, who are a fantastic company who I really like, and they make amazing reading lights like this, and I'll talk to you a bit more about them later on in the video. So in a way, it feels kind of hard to take you through a day in my working life because one of the things about working as a freelancer is that every day is kind of different, but there are some things that kind of stay the same or that are much more similar from day to day. So every day, Monday to Friday, I wake up at 7 a.m. And the very first thing I do is make a cup of tea. I love tea a lot, and I do find that it does wake me up. And then usually, like while the kettle is boiling and the tea is brewing, I make my lunch as well, just so that's kind of done. Basically, for lunch every day, I have like cucumber, tomatoes, raw carrots, raw peppers. And I usually chop up the vegetables kind of first thing while I am waiting for the tea to brew, just so that's done. And then after that, I sit down at my desk and do some writing. I have been writing first thing in the morning for a really long time, like since I was, I think, 14 years old. I really enjoy writing first thing in the morning because it means that I always manage to fit writing into my day. So I wrote first thing in the morning all the way kind of through school and university and kind of all my working life. I've always got up earlier than I need to write in the morning for an hour. Now that I work freelance and my time is more flexible, and you know, now that I am a published author and kind of writing is more a part of my career and my working life, I write for more time in the morning. So I would say I write for sort of between 1 and 3 hours every morning. Kind of depends on how busy I am with freelance editorial work and other things, and also kind of what stage of a manuscript I'm at. So I'm working on a third novel at the moment. I have written 2 drafts of it, and there are some kind of holes in my research, or there are some things I need to do some more work on. So I'm doing like a bit of editing and writing, but I'm mostly like researching. Basically, my rule is that I need to spend time every morning working on my writing, but that could be, you know, writing a new draft, writing new words. It's also very often editing my own work. You know, I'm the kind of writer who sort of writes a quick first draft and then spends a lot of time editing. So I actually spend more time editing my own work and rewriting it than I do like writing the first draft. But I also like give myself the leeway to spend that time in the morning researching. The one rule I kind of have for myself about that morning writing time is that I don't use that to do like writing admin or writing social media. Like it has to be like work on a book. Research is fine, editing and writing is fine, but it can't be like answering emails from my publishers. That I try and do at other points in the day, just because I like to try and keep that morning writing time like properly novel focused. And so yeah, I've just finished kind of doing my morning writing. Today I did like an hour and a half, so I did like half an hour of like editing stuff and like an hour of research stuff. I should say as well, I always write in my pajamas. I have put on my best like bookish pajamas for this video, but I kind of like writing in my pajamas and then like, you know, getting changed for my freelance editorial work because it provides like a nice separation. So it's now kind of 8:45 in the morning, and the next thing I'm going to do is do some exercise. So I usually spend 45 minutes like every other day doing physio exercises. So I have a long-term knee injury, and I spend a lot of time doing exercises to try and make my knee better. I usually listen to an audiobook while I am exercising. So at the moment I'm just listening to Our Mutual Friend by Charles Dickens, which is a reread for me. I really enjoy listening to audiobooks while I exercise. It makes the exercise much more fun. So it's a bit later in the morning, I've done my exercises and I'm now kind of like more ready for the day. I've also been doing a little bit of freelance admin, sort of like replying to emails about possible jobs and that kind of thing. But before I kind of sit down at my desk and kind of get stuck into the work I'm doing at the moment, I kind of wanted to talk a bit about like my work in general, in case that was kind of useful context. As I said at the beginning of this video, I'm a freelance editor and an author. So I have had 2 books published, The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Montgomery most recently, and The Secrets of Hartwood Hall. It's still kind of exciting and new that that is like part of my job, I guess. And then the other kind of big part of my work is freelance editing. So I have been working in the publishing industry in the UK for a long time. I was an in-house editor for ages, and then I went freelance 2 years ago, and now I'm a freelance editor. And I do quite a few different kinds of editorial work. So I do structural edits, which are like the kind of early big picture stuff. This plot line needs work, this character needs more work. I mean, obviously much more complex than that. I do line edits, which are kind of this paragraph isn't working, this sentence isn't working, draw out this theme more throughout, you know, the kind of nittier-grittier stuff, but again, more sort of like on the qualitative side. And then I also do copy edits, which are the kind of stage where you fix all the errors, so timeline problems, grammar, punctuation, consistency or continuity errors, all of that kind of stuff gets picked up by the copy edit. And then I also do some proofreads, which is, you know, the final check of everything, and also kind of checking formatting and layout. Proofreads are the things I do the least, partly because they are kind of the least interesting stage for me, I guess, and also because they pay less well, you know, very practically. I think the thing I probably do the most of is copy edits, not by necessarily a huge amount, like I do quite a lot of structure and line edits too, but I do a lot of copy edits, and I also do a lot of copy edits of historical fiction, where I do like lots of historical fact checking too, which I really enjoy. I really love copy editing. It's very, very satisfying. So the kind of like two main areas of my working life are writing and freelance editing. Freelance editing takes up more of the time than writing does most weeks and most days. And then the other kind of thing that takes up a lot of my time is BookTube. BookTube for me is kind of like half work, half not. You know, I earn some money through it, through ad revenue, through Patreon, and also through, you know, sponsored videos like this one, which is really nice. I would say that a fairly like normal freelance day for me, like a really average freelance day for me, would probably be like 2 hours of writing, 6 hours of freelance editing, 1 hour of BookTube. That would be a fairly normal day for me, but if I'm busy, I often work well over 9 hours a day. And also sometimes my days look very different. I might take some time out of working during the day to do life admin stuff or to go and do something, in which case I'll work in the evenings. Sometimes also I just work in the evenings because I'm busy. I also do quite like to film in bulk. So sometimes I will spend like 4 or 5 hours filming BookTube in an afternoon, and then I will do freelance editorial work in the evening, so that I am definitely like on top of things. Also, sometimes if I have gaps between freelance jobs, which I don't have very much of actually, but occasionally I will have a gap of a couple of days or a week. If I have gaps between freelance jobs, then I spend that time writing a lot or doing a lot of BookTube work, and, you know, proofing a lot of videos and that kind of thing. Anyway, before I get stuck into my copy edit, as I said at the very start, this video is very kindly sponsored by Serious Readers. So I wanted to tell you a bit about Serious Readers. You may have heard me talk about them on this channel before, but Serious Readers are a great company who make amazing reading lights, like this one here. So this is my high definition light. I've had it for 2 years, I think, and I really like it. I use it a lot. Basically, if I'm reading at home rather than like on a train, then I am sitting on this sofa using this reading light. It is dimmable. It is also like movable and very flexible. You can position it in lots of different ways, kind of depending on how you're reading, which I really like. So Serious Lights use something called daylight wavelength technology, which basically replicates the daylight spectrum as close as technically possible. So basically it is more like reading in natural light than using most lamps or lights are. I also have a compact light from Serious Readers, which sits above my desk, and I often use while working, especially if I'm working in the evening, especially in the winter when it gets dark. So yeah, just wanted to tell you a bit about Serious Readers. I also have an offer code. So the code is KT24 in capital letters. I'll put it on the screen. And if you're interested in a Serious light, you can head over to the Serious Readers website and you can get £100 off a high definition light. So I'll leave all the details about that down below. And anyway, yes, let me get on with my copy editing. So I'm sat here at my desk with my second cup of tea of the day, and I'm about to start copy editing. So I thought I would talk to you a little bit about copy editing and what I do. Obviously I can't really tell you about like the book I'm copy editing because, you know, I work on projects that have yet to be published, so they're confidential. I've turned my screen off to talk to you, but I can kind of talk you through the process of a copy edit. because I feel like people might find it quite interesting. So usually when I do a copy edit, the kind of first thing I do, which is probably about half of the work of a copy edit, is to go through the whole novel really, really slowly, copy editing it. And this is a slow process, you know, it's interrogating every sentence, every paragraph, making sure the punctuation and grammar works, making a lot of notes. You know, I keep a timeline tracker, and I leave comments and queries, make notes of character ages, and place names, and I have a style sheet with kind of word forms and stuff. When I say word forms, to explain what I mean, there are words that can be spelt in different ways. This is especially true of compound words. So, you know, take a word like breathtaking. Sometimes breathtaking is one word, but it also could be a word with a hyphen in the middle, breath hyphen taking. Publishers might prefer it one way and some might prefer it another way. So whenever I'm copy editing, I'm basically like looking up every single compound word I come across in either the Collins Dictionary or the Oxford English Dictionary, depending on what publisher I'm working for, and checking that the use of that compound word is correct as per the dictionary that the publisher likes to follow, and also that it is consistent throughout the manuscript. So the first stage of the copy edit is basically like working through the whole book really slowly, checking as many things as possible, making changes in track changes in Microsoft Word, leaving queries for the author, making a note of the timeline, and like doing as much as possible on a first read. And that is a slow process. Like usually for a normal length novel, that will take me like 25 to 30 hours, maybe more. And that's like the bulk of the copy edit. But there are some things I do after that. So once I've read through the novel once, usually I will be left with some queries. So there are always some queries that go to the author, but sometimes when I finish the book, I'll have left some queries for myself throughout the manuscript, things I need to return to. You know, maybe something was said earlier on that didn't quite make sense. Need to work out whether that's something that becomes clear later or not. Or then maybe there's a continuity thing they need to go back and fix. Maybe the timeline really needs a lot of work, and then I have to go back and kind of work out a correct timeline and implement it throughout the novel. And I usually do like searches. So as I said, I'm checking the spelling of compound words, and I'm doing that as I go through, but in case I have missed one instance of the word breathtaking, then I, you know, use Control F and check for all instances of the word breathtaking in multiple forms and make sure they're all the same. I also at this stage usually like tidy up the style sheet and the query documents, make sure everything is clear and really easy for the author to understand, make sure the timeline is kind of neat and makes sense. And then once I've kind of finished going through all those queries and searches and making sure everything is really clear, then I read through the whole manuscript a second time. And I do that, of course, again in Microsoft Word, but where I do the first round of the copy edit in full markup view, I do the second, like the final round in simple markup view, which basically means that track changes are still on, but I am reading it without being able to see all the track changes. I can just see the final version. Reading it on that simpler view is a really good way of making sure there are no typos or errors that have kind of crept in, and for kind of checking like formatting stuff. So do the kind of final read through to check all of that stuff, to do a final check, but also to check for any like continuity or consistency things that I might not have spotted the first read. Once I finish my second read through, I like read through all the comments that I've left on the manuscript to make sure that they all make sense and they're all really clear, do a final read through of the style sheet and the query document, and then that all goes to the publisher. So yeah, a copy edit of a kind of regular length book usually takes me like 40 to 50 hours. Copy editing is slow, like actually structural line edits, proofreads all take me less time than copy edits. Copy edits are the thing that takes me the longest. You are reading a paragraph and you read the paragraph, and some paragraphs are really quick, but sometimes you read a paragraph and there are a lot of compound words to check, and the sentence structure or the grammar isn't quite working, so you have to like really interrogate why and then try and rearrange it and make sure it works, see if you can make as few changes as possible, you know, keep what the author intended, but make some tweaks to make sure it is working, and then maybe there'll be like a historical reference, and then you have to look up the historical reference and check it is right. And sometimes historical fact checking can take you like down all kinds of rabbit holes, and so sometimes one paragraph takes you 1 minute and sometimes one paragraph takes you half an hour. So as I said, a kind of regular day for me would often include like 6 hours of freelance editing, and I usually do it in like chunks. Copy editing especially is quite hard to just do for like hours and hours and hours solidly because it is very intense. So usually when I'm doing a copy edit, I will put my timer on for 3 hours, and I will do 3 hours really solid copy editing, and then I will pause, do something different, do some admin, film or edit a booktube video or something like that. That kind of depends on the day. I think today I do want to film a video later because I haven't filmed my August wrap up yet. So I think I'm gonna put my timer on for 3 hours, do 3 hours of copy editing, then film a video, then do another 3 hours of copy editing, and probably more, to be honest. I'm really busy at the moment, so I think I will probably actually work this evening. So yeah, I'm gonna get cracking, and I will chat to you again later in the video. I don't usually like working in silence, I think because I find it a bit too quiet, but also I find it very hard to work to music with lyrics, because obviously my work is very word-based, and I really need to be focusing on the words that I am editing. So usually the music I listen to while I am working is Studio Ghibli film soundtracks, piano covers on YouTube. There are quite a lot of like playlists and YouTube videos of like 10 hours of Studio Ghibli film soundtrack piano covers, which are very like gentle and nice background music, and I know them all really well. So that is what I tend to listen to while I work. When it gets to like 12:30, 1 o'clock, I usually just eat lunch at my desk. Sometimes I do try and take a lunch break and like read on my lunch break while eating lunch, but most of the time I end up eating lunch at my desk because I'm in the middle of something and I kind of don't want to stop. So I have finished filming my wrap up and I'm back at my desk to do some more copy editing. So I'm going to set my timer on my phone for another 3 hours and then see what I get to. So I've done my next 3 hours of copy editing, so I thought I would update you again. I think I'm actually gonna do some more copy editing and work this evening, just because I am quite busy at the moment, but I don't do that every evening. I would say there are like, I don't know, 4 different things that I tend to do with my evenings. So one thing that I sometimes do is, you know, see friends or have some kind of activity, you know, I'm doing something, I'm going out in the evening. Sometimes I, you know, hang out with my husband, watch Star Trek, etc. Sometimes I read. I often do reading in the evenings. That's probably like the time I do the most reading. And then the other thing I sometimes do in the evening is work, because, you know, if you're freelance, you're working towards a specific deadline rather than having contracted hours. I mean, I say that like I didn't used to work into the evenings when I worked in-house. At the moment, I'm quite busy, so I am working in the evenings quite a bit. But I don't all the time. Sometimes I finish at 6 p.m. and read all evening, and that's very nice. I suppose I also probably do booktube editing in the evenings quite a lot, actually. I feel like it may be odd to people that I haven't like spoken about reading very much in like a day in the life vlog. I don't necessarily read every day, which I think people find surprising because I read a lot. But actually my reading tends to be quite like in bulk. When I worked in-house and like was commuting into an office, I used to read a lot on the train, so I would get a lot of reading in every day. But now I feel like I often get a lot of reading done on the weekends or sometimes in the evenings, and I often get a lot of reading done like on holiday, or I have a quiet week and then I manage to get a lot more reading done. But like in an average week where I'm like working on a project, then I tend to get less reading done. And I would say especially that is true when I'm copy editing and proofreading, because if you're copy editing and proofreading and you spent the whole day looking at a book and looking for all the mistakes, then when you pick up a published book, it's very hard not to see all the mistakes. It's not just actual mistakes. There are lots of subjective things about copy editing, and sometimes, you know, you could put a comma there, but you don't have to, or that comma might be better as an end dash. Sometimes I will start reading a book and think I would have copy edited that sentence differently, and like find myself automatically copy editing a book that I'm reading for fun. So if I am working on a copy edit or proofread, then I tend to read less in the evenings or like after work, just because my brain is like still in copy edit mode. So as I said, I'm going to work this evening, but I don't do that all the time. And whenever I do lots of evening work or work on the weekends, which, you know, I do sometimes to make a deadline, then I give myself time back in lieu. I keep a record of the time I like owe myself back in lieu. And then, you know, at some point when I'm quieter, I will take a few days off and probably read a lot in those days. I owe myself quite a few days in lieu right now, but, you know, hopefully I'll take them all in Victober and read a lot of Victorian books, but we'll see. So as I said, I was, you know, timing my copy edit as I was working on it, and I have kind of two spreadsheets where I track that. So I have a spreadsheet which is like my invoice and work tracker, where I track all my kind of paid freelance work, when I'm expecting the project to come in, when I'm expecting to hand it back, and then how many hours I spent on it so far. And then, you know, at the end I keep a track of invoice details there too. And then I have another spreadsheet where I track all my hours, like for my own benefit and sanity. So I keep a track of how many hours I spend doing like paid freelance editorial work. So, you know, work that I'm doing on a specific project. And then I also keep a track of like freelance editorial admin, which is, you know, like replying to emails about potential jobs and that kind of thing, doing invoices, which doesn't tend to be that much every week. You know, that's probably like half an hour a week, but that does kind of add up, and that is time I am working, so I like to keep a track of that, and then keep a track of how much time I spend doing like writing, by which I mean, you know, writing or editing my own work, how much time I spend doing writing research, which like some months or some weeks is a lot, and some weeks is none at all. And then I keep a track of how much time I spend doing like writing admin and social media. There are some weeks, especially like running up to a book publication, where I'm spending like 10-20 hours doing writing admin and social media, and, you know, looking at covers and replying to emails and like going and doing events, and where that can be like a lot of my week. But like right now, that's not very much of my week. I think I will probably spend like half an hour this week doing writing related admin, because I just don't have that much at the moment. And then I also keep a track of how many hours I spend doing booktube stuff. So I have a big spreadsheet for all of that, basically, and that for me works better than having like a set daily schedule. It's just keeping track of the hours and making sure I'm doing the amount of hours that I want to be doing. I feel like that has hopefully given you a good sense of a day in the life of a freelance editor. I did also think it might be nice to take you through my week as well, just to give you a sense of like the fact that it can be varied. So it's Tuesday today, and yesterday was Monday, and I had a physio appointment in the afternoon, and then I was meeting some friends for dinner. So I actually went and worked in a cafe for like 4 hours between going to physio and meeting my friends for dinner, just because it seemed silly to kind of come home when those two things were very near each other. I very rarely work in cafes or libraries or anything like that, just because I prefer working at home, where I have a big screen and can make myself cups of tea that don't cost like £3, but it was actually quite nice to go and work in a cafe yesterday, and I had quite a productive afternoon. Today I have, you know, been in the house all day working, and I think probably Thursday and Friday will look very similar to today as well, but tomorrow I'm actually going to an event at the National Gallery. The National Gallery have a thing they're doing this year to celebrate 200 years since the National Gallery opened, called 200 Creators, and I am one of the 200 creators who has membership sponsorship for the year and is invited to special events and that kind of thing. So I'm going to a press opening of the Van Gogh exhibition at the National Gallery, which will be really exciting. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to going to the National Gallery tomorrow afternoon. I think that'll be really, really fun. Otherwise, that's all for now. I hope this has been an interesting video rather than just a bit random, but do let me know if you have any questions about anything. But otherwise, thanks again to Serious Readers for sponsoring this video, and thanks everybody for watching. I hope you found this video interesting, but do let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about anything, and otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.